The next thing that we're going to talk about is our vocab books. Vocab books are done every week, all year long. They are vocabulary words that come from the story. I'll show you that in a second. They're done on sheets of paper that we run off. I have a special stapler that staples them. The student folds it in half. What I require is that the student put in quotes or underline the story's title. This week we are doing the first week of school, we'll be doing Frindle. That's by Andrew Clements. And so that is the title, and the author is written up there. We then, for the beginning of the year, we're going to start with one sentence. I ask for the students to have at least 9 words in their sentence at the beginning of the year. We'll increase that as the year goes along. Eventually they'll have at least 2 sentences. And I ask for 2 things on every page, actually 3. A picture that they have to do. I require more than stick people. We do a little bit of work on that. But the most important things are the sentence and the definition. The sentence, I ask that they write in cursive. This is one of the few times that I do kind of teach a penmanship in class. I do expect it to be in cursive and neat. The word has to be spelled correctly. All the words should be spelled correctly, but I'm especially critical at the beginning of the year of the vocabulary words, which are on the front of the board in the classroom. They're also in the book, in the workbook. I'll show you that in a second. And they're underlined. And then on the bottom, the definition is put on there, and then your child's name. I try to sit down with every student individually every week. Realistically, it doesn't happen. This is something that you can ask later in the week on Wednesday or Thursday to see your child's, so that you check them over. Again, I can't check for the spelling and punctuation on all of them the way that I would like to always. I do that a lot, especially at the beginning of the year, but as we progress, these are something that you can ask for. They're due every single week. Every week, all year long, we do those. One thing that I'm going to add is the fact that, well, I don't know what the definition is. Every one of our reading stories in our reading workbook is set up with the story, Frindle, and at the beginning of that section, there is always a list of the vocab words, which are the ones that I require in the book, and it gives you the definition specific to this story. I realize that there are words that have several definitions, so the definition that the students will be required to use in a sentence and for the definition will be found in their reading workbooks, which makes it really easy. They don't have to sort through 7 or 8 definitions to find the correct definition. Also in our reading books, we have at the beginning of every story, we usually read these out loud, the short blurb in there that has all of the words used correctly in the sentence, and they're highlighted so that the student can also go back and use the word acquainted in here, and it will be in their book. To get acquainted with your dictionary, read the explanation in the front. They're not to use that sentence. That just shows you what part of speech it is and how it can be correctly used. So that is your vocab books that we do. Now I'm going to have to go back. Your reading slips that we talked about before, one of the things that I neglected, I forgot to mention, is the fact that it has to be age appropriate. And so we are encouraging your child to read at grade level. And I'm sure you're all saying, well, how will I know that? Well, first of all, that means we don't want them reading comics or cartoons, that kind of thing, but we also don't want them reading too difficult where they're having to sit down and break down every word. So that brings us to the final thing that I'm going to talk about for our reading instruction, and that is AR, or Accelerated Reader. I'm presuming if your child went to school in Ironwood last year that they're familiar with this. It is a system that we have, a special library that we have that has books that are color-coded based on their reading level. They have a AR book due every month for me that I take off the computer and I enter into my grade book. They are to read the book, and then they will take an AR test. I take the grade off the computer and put it in there. They have to pass it with a 80% or better, I believe is my requirement for that, or 70% or better. That allows the child to be reading books that is not too difficult, but it's not too easy. Also, we want to continually challenge their vocabulary so that they're increasing in their reading. So when they're reading for 10 minutes a day, I would prefer that they're reading something that's, like an AR book is a very good thing to ask your child about. And the other thing, like it says in the note, you can always be rereading your science textbook or your social studies textbook when they're reading for 10 minutes at night to review the things that we've talked about. So Every week we have a fluency read that's due, 5 signatures. Every week we have 5 reading slips that are due, reading slips that can be signed in your agenda or a simple piece of paper. And then every week we have a vocabulary book due. And then obviously at the end of the month, we will have an accelerated reader, an AR book as we call it, that will be due as well. And a lot of times I've had parents come in and discuss with me that they would like their child to read more than 1 book a month, and I'm okay with that too. I can put that in the grade book, and so I can increase that if you feel that that several books would be more appropriate for your son or daughter. If you have any questions, you can feel free to contact me. Thank you.